You ready, Sarah?
Good evening. I'd like to bring to order the 7 p.m. regular session of the City Council. Roll call, please. Here.
Councilmember Meyer?
Here.
Councilmember Patel?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown?
Here.
Mayor Wright?
Here. Please stand for the invocation given by Bill Heller from the Hemet-San Jacinto Interfaith Council, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilmember Michael Percival.
Good evening. In this moment now, I would ask you to join us to focus on the presence and the love of God in this center, in this meeting right now, in this gathering. Gratefully, we accept all that is unfolding here today. We know each one here has brought a message of value, a gift to make a difference, a contribution for this community. We release any doubts and concerns, and we trust the divine answers are unfolding for us this evening. For this time, we give thanks, and so it is. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. Place your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we'll continue with city business and the consent calendar, which contains items which are typically routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion by the council unless an item is removed for discussion by a member of the public, staff, or council. If you do wish to discuss a consent calendar item, you would have had to give your name to the city clerk, and if you have, you'll call you to the lectern, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak on the subject. Sarah, were there anybody that wanted to speak tonight? Okay. With that, we'll move on to the consent calendar, and may I have a motion, please? Or does anybody wish to pull anything? I'm sorry. By the public, staff, or the council? Hearing none?
I do.
Okay.
I would need to pull number 6, please.
Number 6, okay. Anybody else? Okay, if I could have a motion then to vote on items 2 through 7, omitting number 6.
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. And that passes 5-0. Carly, number 6.
My first question is it something we're doing new this year? This is the second item that has been brought to us without proposals attached. We got our fire vehicle last time, and then this one, and there's no bids attached. So I don't know if that's a new process that we're doing as a council, but
Hi there.
Would you like to address that, Kathy?
Yes, Council, I really would. Scott Underwood and I have worked getting information. We've found that each of the 3 components are well under the city manager's signing, but if you roll it all together into one project, then it comes up. We're asking for the appropriations to go ahead and update our servers. So it's not one giant, it's pieces. Does that answer your question, Council Member?
I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
The other question is, now if these are donated funds, do we need to vote on that? I mean, were they donated for us to decide, or were they donated with a designation?
They are being held in city fund accounts, and so we're just being clear and transparent. Okay.
I was just wondering. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Actually, I do have a question on this. The, Kathy, on the Library Gift Trust Fund, is that the LaSalle grant?
No, that is not LaSalle.
It's not LaSalle.
That is not LaSalle. We're not touching that at all.
Okay, so this is other grant funding and endowment funding that are donation funding.
Yes,
that we've
donation
gotten,
funding.
that the library's gotten. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Hearing none, I'll need a motion, please.
I'll move to approve it.
I'll second.
Please vote. Oop. That is not a no. It just doesn't want to go off of no.
It is a yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, council. Our public appreciates it.
Thank you. Moving forward, communications from the public. Anyone who wishes to address the council items not on the agenda at this time may do so. As a courtesy, make sure that you put in a request to speak. You'll have 3 minutes to address your concern or state your case, and we will move forward with that. Do we have any?
Yes.
Okay.
The first speaker is Pebbles Marino, and she will be followed by Susan Larkin.
Hi, council members. I'm part of Homicide Family Seeking Justice. I'm here tonight. We're going to start coming. I wasn't sure if I was coming tonight to have everybody here with me, but we're going to start hitting the meetings now. April is coming up pretty soon. It's Victims' Rights Month, and a lot of us homicide parents feel that the city of Hemet owes it to us parents that have lost a child to a violent homicide here in your city. We think it ain't gonna hurt nobody to honor the victims one month out the year, which is the month of April. Like Jerry Brown said, Governor, communities should rise and be their voice for those that need justice, and there's too many unsolved cases here that need justice. And having our children hanging on Florida, it should fall under Measure U awareness to the community. Nobody knows who the murder victims are unless you're the parent or people attending the funeral. There should be a display of our children that either they were murdered, car accident, whatever the case may be. Homicide's homicide. It doesn't matter. If somebody takes your life, it's homicide. And we're going to try and get you guys to agree. If us parents have to buy the flag this year to have it hanging, so be it. But we feel the city should honor our kids. There's a sign for everything. To give us a wall of our children whose lives were taken. I mean, some of you guys up there with the Daniel Ramirez case, you guys wanted to seem sincere when you guys extended your hand. You, Bonnie, when we had that meeting upstairs, you guys want to be sincere about your condolences and your I'm sorry and how things played out? Well, give back to us parents that are in the community. We're taxpayers. I'm a taxpayer. I deserve something for my kid whose life was taken, and there was a lot of hidden agendas and an improper death notification notice when the police department knew my son was dead and never notified me or told me. And now they just arrested a third person in his case. That's raising a lot of flags about somebody that was hiding certain stuff. So to a parent whose kid was murdered, it would mean a lot to get something like this approved. So hopefully you guys will approve it, and we'll start packing out the meetings because we want to get our opinion heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan, how are you tonight?
Good evening, council members. I'm here to remind you, as well as the public, that Tuesday, January 29th is the homeless point in time count for the city of Hemet and the county of Riverside. Valley Restart is the coordinating agency this year. We do anticipate that it will be staged out of the Salvation Army again. Again, that's January 29th at 5:30 in the morning. We need probably, well, I'm not sure how many volunteers, extra volunteers we need, but we need more volunteers. Official training is tomorrow at 1:30 at Valley Restart, But if we get additional volunteers, we can schedule an additional training. So I want to invite all of you, the public, come out and help us count. An accurate count helps us obtain federal and state resources in our local jurisdiction to be able to address the situation here. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
That concludes our communications from the public. We'll move on to discussion and action items. Item number 8, urgency ordinance regarding fireworks prohibition and local amendments to the 2016 California Fire Code.
Mayor, I'll handle that item this evening. You had on your future agenda items a notation for fireworks policy.
Right.
In looking into fireworks policy by the police chief and the fire chief, they realized that in 2016, when the city adopted its uniform codes, including the Uniform Fire Code, it did not add the special variants for local conditions that allowed us to have a complete prohibition on fireworks. So since 2016, safe and sane fireworks would have been legal within the city, and the police and fire department would not have been able to cite for their use, as well as allowing the sales. When they discovered this, we realized that we needed to do a complete ban, which is what the city has had for as many years as I can remember it. So tonight in front of you is the complete ban that will go in place. You don't have to adopt it tonight. We're not close to New Year's Eve or 4th of July, but people do use fireworks throughout the year, especially illegal and dangerous fireworks. So it is our recommendation that you adopt it. We've also talked at a staff level about how to make sure that when the uniform codes come up for incorporation and adoption every few years, they're on a 2-3 year cycle, that we make sure to put it in there. That's why you see it being added in 2 different places. It's going to be added in the health welfare section of your code, and we'll also put a notation in the Uniform Fire Code section for a local variance. If you read through the ordinance, it does appear to allow public firework displays. The issue with public firework displays is that not only do you have to get a city permit, but you already have to have a state license for a public firework display, and you have to have a licensed pyrotechnic operator to do that. So we're not talking about somebody just having a little fireworks show in their backyard. This would be more of the school, city, large public or private charitable foundation holding a kind of a community fireworks show. There are 3 exceptions to the complete ban. Those are carried straight over from state law. Agricultural fireworks, industrial fireworks, fireworks being used by city staff, and fireworks used for religious purposes. Those are part of the existing law. We can't prohibit those, but anything otherwise we've prohibited. Dangerous fireworks, anything other types of fireworks, including safe and sane fireworks. So once this is adopted, it will go into effect immediately, and no types of fireworks will be allowed in the city absent those special exceptions, and those are very rare. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to address those.
Council?
I need you to explain, if they're illegal in Riverside County, then how is it okay in Hemet?
Each local jurisdiction can have its own law with regard to whether or not to allow safe and sane fireworks or not. And in our case, we did not have a ban for safe and sane fireworks, even though the county overall, the unincorporated areas might have a complete ban. Hemet could, if it wanted to, allow safe and sane fireworks. This makes sure that we're consistent with the countywide ban.
Anyone else? Well, I do know that thankfully, of course, it was not good scene over July 4th this last year. and we had a lot of community outcry about how bad the fireworks were in their neighborhoods. I expected pretty close to the same over the New Year, and that didn't happen as much. Am I correct? Where's our officers here?
That's correct.
Okay, so it seemed that it was almost, it wasn't non-existent, but it was considerably less than I even expected, and certainly a lot less than what it was for July 4th. It was colder.
That's true, and we also partnered with the fire department to make sure we got out there and did some education. I think we need to really ramp that up prior to July 4th to make it a lot safer this year. So
Maybe there's something that we can put as an op-ed piece or something that lets the public know where we stand and that there's a zero tolerance for fireworks.
yeah, that always plays a good part, and that's definitely what we're doing with the battalion chiefs. We're sitting down and having a game plan for the upcoming 4th of July.
Great.
And I think what they did for the New Year's was a lot different this year.
Yeah,
And
definitely was.
the public education was good.
Well, it was really noticeable, so we appreciate staff bringing it forward again and addressing it. And if I could have a motion? Oh, yes?
Yeah, I noticed in the ordinance that there's the option of pursuing prosecution as an infraction for a first offense. So this is somewhat of a wobbler, so if that latitude does exist for prosecution, but otherwise it would be a misdemeanor.
The city could enforce it as an administrative citation through its code enforcement if it wanted to, or as an infraction, or as a misdemeanor, depending on the citing officer's determination as to how serious the condition is.
Wobbler.
Well, wobbler, yeah. I also think too that I realize that we could take action on this later, but I think those who are prone to having illegal fireworks don't necessarily wait for holiday periods to set them off. And I think there's been a substantial amount of social media commentary about hazard concerns and the concerns of that it has, the effects that it has on pets and all of those things. So I think for me, that's enough justification to take action tonight. So
I have a question on the enforcement side. So with this being put in place again, does a law enforcement officer or have to be the one that actually sees or hears it going, an illegal firework going off, or can I report my neighbors?
Well, you can report, just depends. Like safe and sane is different. You know, when we deal with
These are
illegally-
M80s.
Yeah, those are illegal. So those are felony charges, not a wobbler. But we handle that differently. So definitely, most of the calls that we received this year was we responded. We didn't say anything, but it satisfied the neighborhood. Whoever was putting them off stopped setting these fireworks off. So and we made one arrest since somebody decided to light an illegal firework right in front of one of our officers. So.
Okay. Thank you.
So I need a motion and a second?
I'll move the staff recommendation to adopt the urgency ordinance, adding Article 6 to Chapter 46 and amending the 2016 California Fire Code as adopted by the City of Hemet.
Second.
Michael, second, you say?
Please vote.
That passes 5-0.
Ordinance Bill number 19-012, an urgency ordinance of the City Council of the City of Hemet, California, adding Article 6 to Chapter 46 of the Hemet Municipal Code and amending the 2006 California Fire Code regarding fireworks.
Great, thank you. Item number 9, equipment installation and construction management, well 10A, CIP number 5635.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. The item before you tonight is one of our approved capital improvement projects, project number 5635. It was approved, I believe, through the fiscal year 16-17 budget, and we have finally come to the point where we are ready to finish the well. So I'm going to take you through just kind of a little bit of background information just as a refresher, because it's always fun, and see what we can do with getting this completed. So the map on the screen shows the city limits of Hemet. As you know, we are one of 3 water agencies that serve various areas within the city. The City of Hemet Water Department is actually located within the center of the city, and we serve about 30,000 customers, residential and commercial. We currently own 9 wells. Due to some water quality challenges, we currently have 6 of those wells shut down. 2 are operational, and the well that we're talking about tonight is well 10A, which, in counting the wells, would be our 9th well. And currently, we also have 3 interties with Eastern Municipal Water District and 1 intertie with Lake Hemet. As we have had to take our wells offline, we have become more reliant on other agencies wheeling water to us. And so restoring well 10A is really a critical project for us, particularly as we enter into the hot summer months. We want to make sure that we can meet the demand of our residents and all of our customers. The location that we are talking about for well 10A is where you see the red circle there. That is actually kind of in the neighborhood generally of Johnston and Kirby. It is not at the park. It's over kind of more on the east side. And to give you a little bit of background, if you recall, this is the well that was drilled in the 40s. We got a good 70 plus years of service out of this well. We tried to keep our hands off it as long as we could, and the last time that we went in for planned maintenance, the well casing was just so fragile that the well just gave way. But because we had such a good producing well, and because the water quality was so good there, and we had the space, we decided to go ahead and do a test hole on the same site. So phase 1 of the project is where we drilled the test hole, did the zone testing, confirmed that we were able to get the volume of water as well as the quality of water that we were getting from the old well, and then council went ahead and approved to expand that out to a full well size to go ahead and equip in the future. So phase 1 kind of took all of those pieces and put it together. The well is currently sitting there now like a straw in the ground waiting for us to put that pump on it so that we can get it into operation and have a 3rd well of our own back in play. We covered all that. As I noted in the staff report, well 10A is a critical need for the city. The ability to ensure that we can meet our highest daily demand during the summer. We know how hot it gets here. We know how unpredictable the weather has been. Currently, with both of our operational wells, plus all 3 of our interties with Eastern Municipal Water District going full bore, we are barely able to make that, and if the demand rises, we're not able to make it. Well 10A gives us that assurance that we'll be able to meet what has historically been our highest demand day. The additional critical need for us is to be able to rest and rotate the use of our wells. When we had 9 operational wells, it was no problem. But now, being that we have limited wells that we're able to use, we have been running them 24/7. So the challenge is twofold. One is to find a time during the year where the demand is low enough that you can take a well off of line to do rehabilitation or to let it rest. And secondly, we also want to kind of vary the area that we're drawing water from. You don't ever kind of want to draw a water table down so much in one area that it starts creating other problems other places and for other agencies. So we've been very fortunate in our ability to kind of take some time off, especially now with as cold as it's been and with the rain we just got. But we continue, even during these cold weather months, to use our interties with the other agency so that we can rest our wells. So currently, and I might have to completely verify that this minute, but I know that this week we've had one of our own wells on as well as one of our interties in operation, so that we're giving well 12, which is on Park Hill, kind of a rest for the moment. The third piece of the puzzle, and really kind of expands the need for not only well 10A, but for us to get some other wells operational, is the capacity for our water system to be able to support public safety should we have a fire event like we've seen happening throughout California. Our highest daily demand that I talk about in the staff report does not take into account if Chief Brown and his team had to be out there pulling so much pressure from the system. That truly is to meet daily user demand. So while well 10A doesn't necessarily solve the problem, if we had one of those big events today, it definitely moves us closer to being able to respond in an effective way. And then lastly, as you're all aware, we have a stipulated judgment that we entered into. We're one of 4 parties, 5 actually, if you include the private pumpers, where we have agreed to purchase Saboba settlement water, and we have been kind of amassing this bank of sustainable long-term water, the supplemental water. Without well 10A, we continue to draw down on that very valuable water. It's probably the best quality water in the valley, and we have a nice bank of it that right now would pretty much represent almost a 3-year supply. Now, we don't have the facilities in place to pump that to us directly. We're still relying on other agencies to get it to us. But the more we pull down that bank of water, the less valuable that asset becomes for us. And what we have seen, we ran some numbers and we took a look at all of calendar year 2018. And what we are seeing is that currently we're pulling somewhere between 50 and 55% of our demand every month through our interties. Particularly when you get into the hotter months, it's closer to 60 and 65%. So we really want to get ourselves away from an area where we're diminishing our asset and where we're so reliant on another agency to be able to wheel our water to us. So very important point for us today. So just real quick, phase 2 project costs. So these are broken down. Took this right out of the staff report, but I kind of just wanted to walk through them very quickly. I know we've had some requests of seeing project costs broken out. So we've done a couple of things. The equipment design and specification development has been completed. So I included it here as part of the project cost, but it is not something we are asking for approval for. It was already done, but it really was part of phase 2. So I wanted you to see it as a phase 2 piece. The 2 items that we're looking for approval on tonight are the equipment purchase and installation for $584,000 and the construction management and inspection. This is a contract professional services agreement for those services. These are the 2 pieces that we are requesting approval on tonight. The 10% construction project contingency was also added. As you know, it's an industry standard. It's not something we spend just because we get it, but it gives us a little bit of leeway if we run into a problem during the installation or with any other items. The contract labor compliance is actually a requirement. These are prevailing wage jobs, and we don't have the staff to be monitoring all of our contractors to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. So we do hire a contract labor consultant, and we have one that's been very good to us and really holds the contractor's feet to the fire so that we stay out of any crosshairs with the GIR or anybody else. So phase 2, in terms of cost, total about $775,000. Again, pieces of this have already been approved. So our recommendation ultimately on this is to award a bid for the equipment installation to Hidden Valley Pump. And as it was stated in the staff report, we received 6 bids. We did do a competitive bid process for this. We received 6 bids. The 2 lowest bidders, if you're looking at price, were actually disqualified because they had more than 50% of their work being done by subcontractors. And it was clearly written in our bidding documents that you have to have that investment. You need to be 50% or more of the work occurring from your team. So the 3rd lowest bidder, who was Hidden Valley Pump, for a price of $584,000, was identified as the lowest responsible bidder. The recommendation is to award them the bid and then also authorize City Manager Parker to enter into the contract agreement and execute the purchase orders necessary to move forward with the construction. Items 3 and 4 are related to the award of the professional services agreement to Albert Webb and Associates for the project management and inspection services. And then item 4 is the establishment of a 10% project contingency amount of $65,670, and that 10% is based only on the total of these 2 items, the construction and the inspection services, not the other items that were listed in the total project cost. So with that, if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to. And
Excuse me. Sure.
Chris had previously put this on an agenda, and then I pulled it off. I wanted the opportunity to talk to EMWD to see if they had capacity to supply us during the summer for the additional water. They don't have the infrastructure to do that. And so this then becomes absolutely necessary.
Any other questions for Council? I have a question for you.
Sure.
On the competitive bid process, that's like saying our tree trimmers that trim our trees, but we have palm trees trimmed by someone else. And so we don't like the business plan, and so we're not picking someone. And so if we want to save $84,000, why would we be picking on their business plan? You know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody's qualified to do a job, whether they're contracted with that person or not, I don't understand that. But if we're trying to save money, then, and the person's licensed to do it, I mean, I know that this has happened before, like on bids that we've gotten, and I've read that before, and I just don't understand that.
So I can tell you one of the challenges that we have been, we've seen in the distant past, but I have heard of recently at local agencies, is when you have a contractor come in and they are not vested in this construction. So they come to the table, they start their work, they run into a problem, and we go, that's on you. This is our contract, and they're only responsible for 30% of the work or 40% of the work. They'll walk away. And we end up left holding the bag. So I think that 50% mark is kind of that, it kind of pushes them over that investment, you know, to get the job done and get paid, as opposed to, I'm the guy bidding it, I got 6 people doing the work, and I'm out my 20% if I don't like it, if I decide to walk away. So it's really more about making sure that their commitment is real and that they're not just there to kind of project manage and have a bunch of subs under them.
Okay. I figured you had a good reason, but I just wanted to hear what you said.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And if I could just coattail on that, our homeowners association is grappling with that very issue on a paving project where the contract was let and they're using subcontractors and there's problems with the quality of work. And so we're struggling with that very issue. So I have a good understanding of the objective of that condition. If you could go back a couple slides to that one there. Can you explain the difference? You have construction management and inspection, and then you have contract labor compliance. And in your presentation, it sounded like some of that was redundant, basically making sure that they're doing the job properly and it's essentially oversight. So I don't understand the distinction between those.
Sure. So the construction management and inspection is really going to be the on-site. It's going to be a member who is watching the job actually happen. The contract labor compliance is really more of an administrative professional service. So they're going to be requesting the payroll documents and making sure that the prevailing wage that's supposed to be met and be paid to those people who are working on the construction site are being paid, that they're following the requirements of prevailing wage for the job. It's kind of an ongoing audit of payroll of the construction company as they're doing the work.
Okay, so not actually the construction itself.
No, they are focused on the prevailing wage piece and the labor payment aspects of the contract to make sure that it is meeting DIR requirements.
Too bad the State Labor Board couldn't do that as part of their participation.
Chris, does that have to be done by an outside entity? If we had the staffing that we should have, would that still have to be contracted out? Or could that inspection and construction management inspection be done by our staff?
Kind of a loaded question. So depending on what the project is, something like a well, you really want somebody who has the technical knowledge in that. There are definitely projects, I think, that if we were staffed correctly,
right,
we absolutely can handle the construction management.
Yeah.
In this case, we probably could. We have the technical knowledge on staff. Our engineering department is a little thin at the moment, and my field guys, my superintendent, my department's a little thin at the moment. We have quite a number of vacancies. So normally between the two of those, something like this we'd probably be able to oversee, but with the staffing levels that we've got at the moment.
So my next question, and I don't know if I'm way off base on this, but do we ever do value engineering?
That would be an engineering question. Do you?
For our projects, because I bring that up because a lot of times it is required, or it's asked of if you apply for funding. So a lot of an agency might ask for a value engineering piece.
So maybe I'm not understanding what that is.
And you might want to introduce
value
yourself,
engineering
because I don't think.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'll introduce him if I may.
You may.
This is Robert Vestal. He's our new principal engineer, and he's amazing.
Thank you.
Nice to have you on board, Robert.
Pleasure. I think value engineering is more of a term than an actual service. Even though there's services offered for value engineering, it basically looks at cost versus reward in the engineering being provided.
Mayor, if I can, value engineering is a tool that we don't have available unless we do a capital project that's in excess of $1 million.
Okay.
The Public Contract Code allows us to do some alternatives to lowest responsible bidder, whether it's construction management, construction manager at risk, things like that. Value engineering is one of those, and unfortunately, that doesn't kick in for us at this level, at $584,000.
That I didn't know. My other question is, I see by all the bids that the third lowest bid, and therefore, and the other two being omitted, that's half of what the highest bid was. Sometimes that sends up a red flag. Sometimes it says, oh, wow, how lucky are we?
Right.
But when there's that much of a difference, I have a little bit of concern. Have we ever worked with Hidden Valley Pump before?
So I'm not sure. We have. Ron Prose, my water superintendent, is saying yes from the back. And I know that he, as well as Crystal, our procurement administrator, made the rounds and did all the reference checks plus some. So.
Okay. I just, being that it was half of what the highest bidder was, I thought that was kind of strange. That's all I have for now. Mike, did you have a question? Comment? Linda?
I don't really have a question, I just have a comment. Thank you for making sure that this came back to us, and that the new and improved staff report, and really highlighting the 4 major reasons why we really need to do this, and adding the Savoga water carryover credits is absolutely paramount to keeping as much of that as we possibly can. As you say, it is an asset that cannot be replenished. So thank you for your additional work on this and explanation. It is appreciated.
Thank you.
And with that,
I'll move approval.
second? Okay, please vote. And that passes 5-0. Oh, yeah, please.
On your question on value engineering, it's risk management. How much can we cut out of the project and not jeopardize it? And that's called value engineering.
Yeah. Well, I see it all the time at work, and I didn't know where it was appropriate for us. Okay, next item, item 10, State Revolving Fund Loan Water Distribution System Improvements. You're up, Chris. Okay.
Thank you, Council. So item 10 for consideration is adoption of 3 resolutions that are required to complete an application for water infrastructure funding that is available through the State Water Resources Control Board under their Drinking Water State Revolving Fund Loan Program. So to just give you again just a bit of history, in 2015 the City Council adopted revised water rates, and as a consideration in developing those rates and looking at our capital needs, the council directed staff to take the approach of long-term financing to be incorporated into those rates to support future infrastructure needs. Initially, we were looking at the option of bonds to finance this, and we came back to council and talked about it a little more, and council decided that due to the lower interest rates available through the State Revolving Fund Loan Program, that we should go after that. So that is what we have been doing. The staff, we identified 5 water distribution projects that are eligible for the loan funding through the state of California. And let me just premise this with, we looked at all of the capital projects that we included in our 5-year plan and really kind of held them up and tried to vet them against grant funding first. So we didn't go straight to this, so it did take us a little bit longer. We did identify one project, our automated read meters, that we were able to get some grant funding for. We're still waiting to hear on that, but we're in. And so this is kind of the remainder of those projects that we are looking to finance through the low interest loan. The projects are listed in the staff report, and they address maintenance needs that include mainline replacements, additional storage capacity, and upgrading old 4-inch distribution lines to 8-inch lines to make sure that we've got that fire service protection throughout the entire city. The projects, like I said, are listed in detail in the staff report. Collectively, they represent just under $17 million, which is what we have filled out our application for initially. We did the application, which is a 4-part application and quite involved. And when you have 5 projects, you need to be able to provide all of the shelf-ready documentation of those projects. So that was a big part of the process that we had to catch up on. I lost my place here. So with the 4 parts, technical, financial, Bonnie, you're going to have to help me with this. Technical, financial.
General information package, technical, environmental.
And environmental. So we have completed everything. What we're waiting for now is just these resolutions. And what the resolutions do is the resolutions essentially tell the state we acknowledge what the parameters are for borrowing money from you should we accept any funding you award us.
That's key.
Right?
That's key.
So we are not today obligating ourselves to any debt. We are not committing to take and or spend all the money. We are simply saying we know what your rules are, and they want that via resolution, and it is a requirement for us to complete the application for them to even consider funding us. So the language in those resolutions feels a little backwards. It feels like you're telling them, yep, we're in, we're going to pay you back $17 million. We get to decide on a project-by-project basis what we are going to do and what money we want to have loaned to us. So this is really pretty standard. I talked to the mayor at length, and this really, because this was kind of our first time going through this process, this is actually something that happens way in the beginning usually.
Yeah.
So we did deliver a drafts of these resolutions to the state, which they gently head nodded, but they are waiting for approved resolutions with signatures to be delivered to them to complete the financial application. So the resolutions, just as a reminder, each one does something different. One authorizes the reimbursement of funds requested by the state, or requested of the state. One designates an authorized representative, which would be our city manager, to execute any financial assistance documents required. And the last one pledges funds for payment of any money that we borrow. It pledges water revenues to make that repayment. So that's where we come full circle, where we've built in that capacity for debt repayment into the rates. So.
And just for council's information, these are 1.8% interest loans for 30 years. So you can't beat that on the market anywhere. So, anybody have any questions?
I have a comment to make. I'd also like to read on here. This was great. I was glad to see this, by the way.
Thanks.
Yes. I liked in the staff report where it said, it talks about the loan repayment or the potential for loan forgiveness for disadvantaged communities. So, you never know.
Fingers crossed that things change all the time. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, we love to get principal forgiveness.
Yes.
Anybody else? With that, I ask for a motion. I'll make the motion if no one else will.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't hear it. Okay. Please vote. That passes 5-0.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, and again, thank you for the great staff report.
Very welcome.
Next item number 11, Seattle Basin update.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. This is a project update for Seattle Basin. Seattle Basin is located on the western part of town. It is south of Menlo, east of Costin, and it parallels Seattle Street. It was built as part of a subdivision improvements, of the adjacent tract. Seattle Basin and the areas adjacent to it are severely impacted by small and large storm events. Seattle Basin has approximately 35 acre-feet of storage before it starts overtopping and filling in the adjacent streets. It doesn't take a lot of rain for that basin to overtop. It's approximately 0.4 inches of rainfall, which is equivalent to a 1 year, 1 hour storm event, which has a 100% occurrence every given year, any given year. This flooding can be attributed to the lack of downstream infrastructure. To alleviate that flooding, the city, along with Riverside County Flood Control, is expanding the studies of an existing CIP project 5592, which I'll talk about in a minute, to include analysis of Line C and Line D of the West Hemet Master Drainage Plan and revised Devonshire Basin. This analysis has two components, two phases. An upstream version, an upstream phase, phase 2, which is estimated, preliminary estimate at 1.7 million, and the downstream phase, which is estimated preliminarily at 3.2 million. As part of the downstream phase, it encompasses or it includes reinforced concrete box culverts from the basin that discharges immediately into the westerly into the vacant field that's currently vacant. Earthen channel will convey it south along Costin and then west along Devonshire and ultimately to, not ultimately, but to the Ramona Creek design for the revised Devonshire Basin. From there, as part of this study, the scope of this study, the stormwater will be conveyed underground in a reinforced concrete pipe to the vacant field, currently vacant, that is south of Florida and west of Warren. And it'll be a level spreader to return the concentrated flow into a more natural flow. Returning to the CIP project 5592, in 2013, the city and Riverside County Flood Control entered into a cooperative agreement to mutually fund engineering and environmental studies for a new master drainage plan. Michael Baker International, MBI, was selected to perform this work. But knowing that Seattle Basin was an issue, the city applied for a grant to expand the scope of this work to include Seattle Basin, specifically Line C and Line D. In 2017, also, the city was awarded roughly $500,000 to expand this. In 2018, the funding was made available. And in 2018, until current, Michael Baker International is finalizing the proposal. As mentioned, Phase 1 is estimated to cost $3.2 million. That's the entirety from Seattle Basin to the Devonshire Basin. And Phase 2, which is the upstream portion, not currently shown in this slide, is $1.7 million. So currently, engineering staff is in discussion with Riverside County Flood Control about possible construction funding for Line C and Line D. In addition to the funds being available, it's really a sequence of when they will be available. So there's also a discussion happening about a possible interim condition, building a portion of that. So in the slide I have shown, the red would be the earthen channel, which would convey most of the floodwaters beyond the residential communities. And the discussion is still hammering out a potential interim condition. Well, with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How much was the basin impacted through these last rains?
The Public Works Department did an outstanding job in keeping those waters under control with pumping. I think recently they installed 3 manually operated pumps to pump basin water into the adjacent vacant field. And they coordinated with fire just to ensure public safety was at the utmost.
Michael, did you have a question?
I do. I have one more comment. I just want to thank you for this update. Do you know what kind of a time frame we're looking to be able to move forward with getting a temporary fix or the Line D portion of it?
Sure.
At least, so that way we don't have to continue to do the manual pumping, which I want to thank staff for doing that because it greatly reduced the impact that it had on traffic by undergrounding those pipes to be able to move that water. So thank you to staff for that.
Yeah, they did a good job. I don't have an answer for you on the estimated time for Line D. There's still a lot of parts moving into position. If it's okay, I'll research it a little bit further and get back to you.
That'd be great.
I just have one question.
Sure.
When you talk about the lines, that's undergrounding, that flood control is undergrounded, or it's not open?
It's a mix. So initially, out of the basin will be a reinforced concrete box to take it under Costin in what's currently vacant land now, and immediately it'll turn into an open conveyance, a dirt channel, and it'll remain a dirt channel all the way south along Costin and then west along Devonshire, pretty much to the Ramona Creek track, and then there it'll go underground until it goes into the basin, which is the revised Devonshire basin. It'll remain, so that it'll be open in the basin, and then it'll return to an underground pipe and be piped under Warren Road, south of Florida, until it again returns to open conveyance, and it'll be a level spreader that takes that concentrated flow and makes it a little bit more natural.
So when it gets down south of Florida, does that go on Habitat property, onto RCA, on the west side of Warren, or on the east side of Warren?
I think they are trying to avoid all of the sensitive areas.
But it should go over there, because that's the only time fairy shrimp appear is when there's water.
Well, I believe that the final, in this scope, the final destination is a vernal pool.
See, I knew I'd pull somebody else up on that one.
And Robert's doing
We
an
used to
excellent
talk-
job, but he hasn't been here as long to
whether
all the
it's
complexities.
rainfall or sheet flow that
Yeah,
goes
as
in
it
that
as
particular
it
area.
exits the Ramona Creek system and
Right.
goes underground, there's a portion that is sheet flowing across, or designed to sheet flow across the vernal pools for the rehydration in the conservation areas. And there's also a portion that will be channelized along Warren Road. So there's 2 systems that are going to be operational eventually to Salt Creek Channel.
That's what I was going to ask, if the destination was Salt Creek Channel over there. Okay, thank you. And this presentation is great. It really is. Thank you so much for doing it.
Thank you.
I do have a question about the proposed flow and direction. And Deanna, you might need to address this. So I understand it's an open channel, and then it will go underneath Devonshire into what's currently vacant land that's being farmed right now, south of Devonshire.